What stood out to me the most wasn't necessarily a particular feature, but it was the emphasis that HubSpot made on how AI can help your best people 10x, 20x their output, so to speak.
Mm,
So, in terms of how AI is going to impact clients' businesses in the next 2, 3 years, I see things moving faster and getting more personalized. And I also see humans relinquishing responsibility from themselves onto AI to perform repeatable tasks or to make an email campaign more personalized or to personalize a quote in a way that would take you or me 30 minutes to navigate the tool, but an AI assistant or agent less than a second to do. So I
mhm.
see things moving faster if we give our people the right tools to train up and specify their agents to 10x, 20x their output.
You're listening to RevOps Champions, a podcast created for B2B leaders to help you align your people, streamline your processes, trust your data, and leverage technology in order to grow your business. Bella Cowdin, welcome to the RevOps Champions podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to explore a big question, and it relates to humans and AI, and hopefully we'll get a little bit into specifically, the day-to-day that you work with around revenue operations, or as a lot of people around here call RevOps, on how to make their CRM more valuable. So thanks for being here. For those listening, Bella is a HubSpot certified trainer and Denamico's very own senior HubSpot consultant. She helps teams simplify automation, strengthen trust across departments, and turn customers into loyal champions. Bella, it's great to have you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brendan.
I'm going to just dive straight in, which is what is one example you've seen or see AI having a big positive impact from your perspective in revenue operations in a business?
That's a big question. I'm in a pull from HubSpot's inbound that just happened over this last week in San Francisco. And
Okay.
I know we were talking about this prior, but one of the things that stood out to me was marketing agents help your marketing operations people do their job better. Sales agents and sales assistants help your salespeople sell faster.
Mhm.
And service agents and service assistants help your customer service people build better relationships. And so, what stood out to me the most wasn't necessarily a particular feature, but it was the emphasis that HubSpot made on how AI can help your best people 10x, 20x their output, so to speak.
Mm.
So, in terms of how AI is going to impact clients' businesses in the next 2, 3 years, I see things moving faster and getting more personalized. And I also see humans relinquishing responsibility from themselves onto AI to perform repeatable tasks or to make an email campaign more personalized or to personalize a quote in a way that would take you or me 30 minutes to navigate the tool, but an AI assistant or agent less than a second to do. So I see things moving faster if we give our people the right tools to train up and specify their agents to 10x, 20x their output.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And I think that's kind of one of the surprising things, the big annual inbound event that happened last week.
Yeah.
And in the new Loop marketing playbook that HubSpot launched, which of course we're all very excited about, I think that was a really big decision of HubSpot's, because they've essentially built the entire business around inbound for 19 years
Yeah.
since their inception in 2006, and now they've essentially came out last week and said, well, that playbook is broken. SEO just doesn't work the way that it did when they started inbound,
Right.
and it's being sort of replaced by this AI driven agentic web.
Yeah.
And but I think one of the paradoxes that you kind of alluded to was, we've been living in this sort of world of personalization for quite a few years now. And with AI, you think, well, things are going to become less personal, but in fact, what's going to happen, and this is in the new Loop marketing playbook, is things are going to go from being personalized to personal.
Hmm.
Um, and you talked about the fact that because with an AI agent, whether you're a marketer, a salesperson, or a customer service agent, human agent, you can now literally make every touch point personal instead of just personalized, right? Which is, I think, kind of
Exactly.
an interesting thing for a lot of things to think about. So yes, I would totally agree. And I think HubSpot's done a really good job of reinforcing the fact that this whole AI thing is only going to work if it's led with humans. So humans first, and then AI to make those humans better. To your point. With that said, okay, so there's obviously a lot of exciting things to come. I know and the thousands of people who were at Inbound, and the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands who saw the announcements are all very excited. But where do you potentially have some concerns about how people are approaching AI incorrectly, in like what you see in your day to day?
Yeah. So I want to actually quote another one of our teammates. So Tina made a brilliant analogy kind of about how late 80s, early 90s, moving in through the 90s was when computers came out, and computers were the next big tech push. And everybody was asking themselves, how am I going to use this in my day to day? I
Mhm.
don't necessarily know how to use this. Do I replace my Rolodex with this? Like, what are we doing here? And so at that time, people didn't know how to use the computer. And so they were using it kind of improperly, or like unplugging it, plugging it back in to like turn it off and on for the night. Like improper usage, I guess you could call it. That's a really minor example.
Mhm.
In terms of issues with AI, I think we're in a really similar boat. Again, I got to give credit to Tina for making that analogy. I thought it was brilliant. The computer's coming out again, I guess, for lack of a better term. AI is
Mhm.
coming out. And so people are, by and large, trying to wrap their arms around what's the best way to use this? How do I use this? What do I relinquish to AI versus what do I keep doing myself? And so what I've been seeing is too much relinquishing to AI, or
Mhm.
not enough. I think striking that balance is going to be critical, because what's happening when people relinquish too much to AI is, number one, a lack of authenticity in the output from AI. The second thing was you actually give up sort of that functionality that your brain has. So there was a study that came out from an Ivy League. It essentially found that if you give up too much of a core functionality that you use your brain for, so it's like a muscle, you use it or you lose it, you actually atrophy that part of your brain faster. So
Mhm.
if you're not keeping the personal touch of AI, you relinquish that to AI fully, and you actually lose that ability to do X, Y, or Z.
Mhm.
So I had an instance where a client uploaded their process and what they thought are like training scripts, or I guess user acceptance testing, I guess we should call it, not training. They uploaded that template and then their process into AI and said, all right, we're good to go. Here is our script. And it
Without
what
checking it to make sure that it was good.
it was read over, but it wasn't edited. It was the raw AI. Here it is. We're good to go.
Wow. Okay.
And that client was relinquishing not only their decision making and saying, this is what I want this to look like, we're not going to edit it, we're just going to go with it, but also like articulating, okay, I actually want this part of my process to be what we train our people on, as opposed to here's everything, we're just going to go with it.
Mm.
So I see the giving up too much to AI becoming an issue, not only for the person, but you don't know what that output's going to look like, and that could have ripple effects. So, like, give and take with I would say, is the biggest thing to kind of watch as you're using that.
Yeah, which comes back to what you were saying earlier. It's which I completely agree with, which is people need to be thinking, how are they going to use AI to make themselves 10 times better, not have relinquish what they should be doing to and have AI do that, because that's not going to end well. I would agree.
Right. I can actually think of another instance in a previous role where a coworker of mine got an escalation email and then they put it into chat GPT asking how to respond, and they pasted that response, and then the client actually called them out saying, this doesn't sound like you, I don't feel like all of my points were addressed. Did you use an agent to answer me just now?
Sure. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think to your point, everybody's learning, and I guess that the idea, obviously, don't take shortcuts. But the one simple question that I learned in the last sort of 6 to 9 months, which really helped, was, and I think it speaks to what you're saying, is how can AI help me do this better?
Mm-hmm.
Which is very different to say, how can AI do this for me? You have to say, how can AI help me do this better, not for me? Because if it's doing it for you, then how are you getting better, right?
Exactly.
In your
Exactly.
job or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Bella, have you come across any sort of tools or frameworks that you think might help people to think through this, in a better way? So when they're giving, chat GPT or Gemini or whatever AI they're using, maybe just give them more insight as to what sort of what they should use in their prompt to make it so that the result is more likely to be better. Not that a good prompt is the solution to everything, but it's definitely that additional context will definitely give you more to work with. But you still have to your point, have to edit it and make sure that you are good with whatever the AI came up with.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't recall what CRIT stands for, but that's
Mm.
the four-step process that you told me. And that lines up with what was shared at Inbound, which is Express.
Crit is that's from by Jeff Woods, who wrote the book The AI Driven Leader.
Okay.
um, and I believe C is context.
Or context, that's what it was. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
but yeah, I think whatever framework it is, and because there are increasingly more of these frameworks. The good news is that these frameworks are essentially all saying the same thing.
Hmm.
So I guess what I would do is just search for a framework to get better results out of your AI tool of choice. And I think that alone, just even understanding what the framework is trying to do, gives you insight as a human as to how you can use AI to help yourself do things better.
Yeah, and I was going to line it up with what HubSpot just laid out with the loop, the express and curate, in my mind, almost kind of lend themselves for the user to do the same thing, where it's like tailoring how you want the AI to think,
Yes.
expressing who you are within the context within which you want the output. So,
Right.
yeah, I think starting there, like regardless of what framework you use, but the
Right.
idea of putting yourself first to use the AI is still what context means, or still what express means, or still what really, when you think of AI frameworks, what that first step is. And that's kind of going back to the other point of people relinquishing too much to AI and not using it in an ethical way that's strategic, that gives you a good outcome.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And but I guess now that we've teased everybody, so Jeff Woods, who wrote the book AI Driven Leader, and he as a side note, he talks about the AI driven leader. It's not about AI, it's about being a strategic leader. But anyway, that's a side note. But so the CRIT framework that he came up with for interacting with AI is, so C is context, R is role. So you ask the AI, take the role, or whatever it is that you think that role would have the best perspective to give you the best result. The I stands for interview, which is where you then tell the AI to interview you. And an additional step that I use is asking one question at a time, because otherwise you get this 100 questions that to me is a little overwhelming. And that helps you gain deeper context. And then the T, which is the last piece, is the task. So define the specific objective you want AI to help you with. And I think, going back to what we were talking about, if you go through that process, if you start using this within a few days, you very quickly start to realize how AI, is there to help you, not not do things for you, which is a very different mindset.
Yeah, and another thing I like to kind of point out while we're on this topic is now HubSpot's AI is hosting memory. So it will remember what you had prompted it in the past 3 months later, and you can refer to that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, one thing I've done personally that I want to try professionally now that, again, we've had this major update where HubSpot's AI has memory, is
Mm-hmm.
I have this prompt that I use personally when I engage with an agent. And I say, "Hi, I'm Bella. I live in central Colorado with my partner and my dog. I enjoy these things. I don't enjoy these things. That's me. Now give me recommendations based on that." And
Mm-hmm.
so with HubSpot, I very much see kind of me using it in the same way, using probably one of their service agents or assistants to say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hi, I'm Bella. I'm a senior consultant. I do some SA work. I'm primarily involved in the services and delivery portion of delivering for a client in the consulting umbrella. Here are some of the things I'm doing. Here are some of the challenges my clients see. Use that, like, moving
Mm.
forward." So I want to give it kind of a similar prompt, and I haven't done this yet, that I do personally now that that memory is there, because I
Yeah.
think that could be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
Mhm.
that's a really good point. I think it sort of confirms what AI leaders across the planet are talking about, which again is just, you know, as we get better working with AI will get better at working with us. But again, there's sort of fundamental, rules, which I think we're all learning them really quickly, and the faster we learn them, the better off we're all going to be for
Mhm.
ourselves, our families, our companies, our communities, because and I think we believe that, again, to your earlier point, if we lead, or go into this sort of AI era, as sort of human first, that'll help us avoid, a lot of the potential pitfalls that could happen from a negative perspective.
Yeah, and I would just like to circle back onto relinquishing too much to AI. A really easy solution to avoid exactly what you just described, Brendan, is not relinquishing too much to AI. And
Right.
so it's just such a funny example. I know I told you about this when we were preparing for this segment, but I had heard about somebody who had uploaded a picture of all of their clothes to AI and then said, "Dress me for the week." Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you really want to relinquish that, like, like small unique part of getting ready every day and presenting yourself every day to AI? Like, just kind of thinking about things that way. I'm not saying our clients are out here doing that, but that's an
Yeah.
extreme example that illustrates the point of you're almost relinquishing your identity when you do that too.
Sure. Which again, if you have a paid license for whatever that AI is that you're using, and you're keeping it in a custom project, then it's not going to be used anywhere else. But I
Right.
would absolutely agree with you that if you're not using a paid license and you do that, then then essentially anyone else will know exactly what your closet looks like and how you get dressed in the morning, which I guess some people might not be too concerned about. But it's just knowing, right? Knowing what the consequences are of not doing this the right way, but not to the point of being too scared to do anything with it.
Yeah, I think that, bringing up the paid license and sharing versus non-sharing is an interesting point, but I definitely see what you're saying. Like, I was more coming from the lens of I don't want to relinquish that unique part of my decision making, let
Absolutely.
alone the
Oh, yeah,
compliance
yeah,
side
yeah,
of that whole thing. Yeah.
yeah. That's an interesting one, because some of the the smartest people who've ever lived, and I'm thinking of Steve Jobs, but I know there are other people. They never had a wardrobe. Or if they
Yep.
did, it was all the same stuff, so that they didn't have
Uh-huh.
to think. Right. So every day I put on my black shirt and my jeans. It doesn't matter which of the 50 pairs of them that they are. And in fact, I just heard another one more recently where someone who doesn't even have a closet, because it's that's just complicated, and it's adding another click or step in your life. If you take your clothes off, just put it in the washing machine, and then you take it out of the washing machine or the dryer, once it's been in the dryer, and you put it on again, kind of thing. So
That's so funny.
there are all kinds of ways to sort of simplifying, and of course, and that's where every person has to decide for themselves, what makes sense. But
Yeah, I
that
totally
can
see
happen
what you're
when you're speaking to me.
I totally see what you're saying. I also think that just gets into the difference of like male versus female. I said, we were at lunch with a group of friends one day, and I mentioned, like, when was the last time you wore a yellow shirt? And all of the men around the table were like, I've literally never thought pop into my brain.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yes.
at any rate, yeah.
I hear you. So Bella, so as we try to bring this back to like the sort of your day to day,
Yeah.
now we haven't completely unpacked all the cool things from both a product perspective, but also a business opportunity perspective that HubSpot announced last week. But sort of looking ahead, if you have any concrete examples, then great, and if not, maybe some things that you're thinking about where you see opportunities for with our clients to sort of move beyond just basic automation,
Yeah.
um, and maybe where you see AI delivering like the next big competitive advantage in RevOps over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. Biggest thing for me, hands down, from inbound was HubSpot acknowledging head on that not all customer data lives in HubSpot. And up until inbound this year, we had kept hearing, officially or unofficially, the sentiment of if it's not in HubSpot, it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first year that HubSpot stood up in front of everybody and said, we know not all your data is in HubSpot. It could be in a G sheet that a CSM made for you 3, 4, 5 months ago. It could be ad hoc anecdotal data in an email that's not categorized or captured in
Mm-hmm.
anything other than an activity record. It could be in another system entirely.
Right.
So this was the first year that HubSpot actually said, actually, you know what? We know not all of your data is in HubSpot. And so we're going to bring Data Studio. And Data Studio is an AI driven codeless, almost kind of an integration, I guess you could call it, with an outside non-HubSpot source to bring your data into HubSpot and enrich your HubSpot records. So the
Mhm.
example that was used was Snowflake, where they accessed Snowflake data share outside of HubSpot, brought that data in under a tab in the contact or company view.
Right.
And I still, just because this is so new, I still want to play around and see in the AI marketplace. That was another new thing that got announced, but I want to see what comes native with data sync, or if there is an option to connect a third, not out of the box, kind of third platform, I guess you could call it, like third party, third platform. I want to
Mhm.
see if that's a codeless connection, if you use an agent to facilitate that. I have questions around all of that. But the biggest thing worth noting here that's only going to get better with time is the ability to descatter your data with Data Studio. And then
Right.
you can bring that in, and as I had mentioned before, with marketing, sales, customer service 10xing their output with AI, they
Mhm.
can then bring in that contextual data to have really enriching conversations within HubSpot that they probably otherwise wouldn't have had access to.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest one for me, even though I still have a ton of questions on it and I still want to spend a lot more time with it.
Yeah.
Step one, version A, is a codeless AI version of an integration to an outside third party system, bring data into HubSpot in a column.
Right. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the biggest one for me.
No, that is huge. And I think that in conjunction with, so HubSpot announced like in the last 6 weeks their integration with Claude. And then 3 or 4 weeks ago, they announced their integration with ChatGPT. And then, of course, last week at Inbound, they announced their integration with Gemini, which again is arguably the biggest of the three, because there are many more businesses on the planet that are already Google shops, as they
Yeah.
call themselves, which of course Gemini is part of. So that becomes really, really interesting. And of course, what you're talking about is kind of the rebrand of what used to be called Operations Hub and is now called Data
Yeah.
Hub, which is now where Data Studio lives. And I think again that makes a lot of sense. And I think we're also very excited about the power that that'll bring, because we've been looking at this in different ways for the last 12 to 15 months around how do we help companies be ready to use AI. And the very first step, and I think this is probably why you're excited about it, is you cannot really do much with AI if you don't have organized data, correct?
Yeah.
And this
Yep.
this now, I think not surprisingly, HubSpot has spent a lot of hours and energy in the last year or two, making sure that HubSpot can now do a lot of that for you. So again, allowing HubSpot customers,
Mhm.
whether it's directly or with the help of a partner like ourselves, to really get access to all their data, that'll help them make decisions in real time, which ultimately is one of the most powerful things you can really do as a leader.
Yeah. Another one I want to highlight actually while we're kind of on this whole topic is AEO, moving from
Mhm.
SEO to AEO. For those who may not know, moving from search engine optimization to AI engine optimization. So as we all have experienced, I'm sure at this point, if unless you just aren't using Google, you haven't experienced this, but if
Mhm.
you Google, let's just say, top 10 Indian restaurants in San Francisco. I'll use Yamini's example. AI will serve up, based on many sources, what its recommendations are. And so instead of SEO, where you're just trying to be first, second, third on a page, ranking by keywords, This is enriching content and helpfulness and your ability to show up in an AI recommendation.
Correct.
So, yeah. So as we know, search is not what it used to be. Some people probably aren't even using Google. They're probably just talking to their assistant at this point. And
Right.
so, in order for you to get recognized, it's not a matter of ranking on a search page anymore. It's a matter of being cited in an AI answer. And
Mm.
so, that's another really big shift that I think we're going to see, particularly not just with HubSpot customers, but in general. There's going to be an industry shift to showing up in an AI curated answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good call out. And I would agree that that was a huge announcement. And again, Kip Bodnar, the CMO of HubSpot, came out on stage and said, look, HubSpot, one of the benefits that they have over many other companies like ourselves, for example, is they have mountains and mountains of data, right?
Right.
So they could look at the data, and of course, what they were seeing, and which is what led to their announcement about the old inbound marketing playbook being broken, is that their traffic was just tanking.
Mm-hmm.
And as they started sort of testing AEO, where again, they started seeing that the results that they were getting from AI were closing, conversion rate was 3 times higher than
Mm-hmm.
anything that they'd seen from just traditional search engines.
Oh yeah.
Um, and of course, they just keep building on that, and now they've made that available to all of us. So again, you could anyone listening to this can just you know either Google or go to your favorite AI and say, just look for the AI engine optimization grader in HubSpot, and just put your domain name in there, and it'll show you how you're doing, and then that'll give you clues on what you can do to improve, so that your business starts being found by ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and Gemini,
Yeah.
etc. So yeah, that's a really good call out,
Yeah.
and it's a huge shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bella, thank you so much for joining. I'm gonna ask you one more question, and that is, any sort of last word of advice that you would leave the listeners with as they're thinking about maybe how do they optimize their CRM, or any other advice that you might be sharing with your clients this week?
Yeah, HubSpot has made a lot of AI enrichment natively available. So I actually uploaded a segment, which used to be a list. I uploaded a new segment for a client earlier this week, and I noticed that in the import process, in the upload process, there was a checkbox that never existed before that said, would you like to enrich all of these records with AI? And I said, yes, please. And I uploaded the records and I clicked on one of the example companies. And this client did not have Breeze credits that allowed for this enrichment, by the way. It just was native.
Mm-hmm.
And I clicked on it and it said Breeze was thinking. And then it generated a real quick about, letting me know the last time that this organization got funding, how many employees they have, who a recommended CEO of that company was, like a recommended associated contact. So it will give you data to fill in your puzzle piece, or it will give you missing puzzle piece for your data to fill in the puzzle, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
So a lot of clients, for example, I've seen this a lot. Oh, we have the director of operations over at company ABC, and we also have their director of marketing who's super nice, but we actually don't know their director of procurement, and we don't have the decision maker. And so with this enrichment tool, very possible for you to probably pull in that missing puzzle piece to get your full picture on that company. So
Yeah, another very powerful example. And
yeah.
and I think you and I have talked about some really exciting things, but I I also just realized we're probably just scratching the tip of the iceberg here. But I think that's enough to sort of whet everybody's appetite for what's to come. I
Yeah.
know I'm personally super excited for the next 6 to 12 months to unpack all the value, because of course it still has to be customized for every single business. But Bella, thanks so much for coming on the show today and sharing your insights with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Brendan. I had fun.
All good. Thanks again.
Have a good one.